Tonight, a winter storm descends on the GTA, bringing a mix of everything.
That's Canada for you, and you have to get through the pain sometimes.
From rain to freezing rain to snow, it was a messy commute for many people across the GTA today, and it's not over yet. Plus,
there is no question that we will have deaths in Ontario from influenza, as we've sadly had occur annually, and a proportion of those deaths sadly will be in children.
while the flu season appears to have peaked, according to Ontario's chief medical officer, children's hospitals are still struggling with high numbers of patients being admitted with the virus. And
this delay is costing money.
Toronto City Council backs a call for a public inquiry into the delayed Eglinton Crosstown LRT, but the two councillors who called for the third-party review say they're disappointed it won't move ahead faster. Good evening, I'm Kelda Yoon. Rain, snow, ice, and wind. The GTA getting a taste of pretty much everything today as it gets hit with a blast of wintry weather. While the storm wasn't as bad as some had anticipated, it was still enough to cause some headaches. And as Clara Pasica reports, it's not quite over yet.
Those who went to work in person today were crossing their fingers for a smooth commute home.
I feel like for commuting people, it's a little hard because you always have to walk to places, but that's Canada for you, and you have to get through the pain sometimes.
It is not as bad as I thought it would be, right? So I'm fairly optimistic about it. The train is running. I can go home.
I think everyone's kind of prepared. I don't feel too nervous. The roads were fine getting the Uber down, so I'm not too worried.
The City of Toronto says it's doing everything it can to ensure the roads are safe. Crews are out monitoring 24 hours a day, salting is underway on all roadways, and staff are out clearing bus stops and crosswalks. Even so, there have been numerous weather-related collisions. Toronto police say they've responded to 18 collisions in the city between noon and 8 tonight, while the OPP say they've responded to over 300 collisions since 6 a.m.
When you have that snow on the ground, in one regard, it's good. It reminds people to slow down. And the other side, it's one of those hazards that when you're not driving the right speed and you need to slow down, that potential may not exist, and you may be sliding farther than you think.
And with the City of Toronto saying 11 to 16 centimeters of snow could be expected by the end of the night, Environment Canada warns driving conditions will likely get worse.
Visibility reductions due to heavier snowfall rates, as well as a mix of snow and wind, creating some more visibility reductions throughout the rest of the afternoon and evening.
Those lucky enough to be able to stay home may have had the right idea.
I'm ready for it, took the day off, and I'm not going to drive anywhere.
But for some, the evening has also come with new challenges, including for thousands in Scarborough, North York, and East York who experienced power outages. The City of Toronto says it has opened up warming shelters for those who may be vulnerable or experiencing homelessness, including behind me at Metro Hall, at the Scarborough Civic Centre, and at Mitchellfield Community Centre in North York. Clara Pasica, CBC News, Toronto.
This weather can be especially difficult for the city's vulnerable homeless population. As Clara mentioned, the city opened 3 warming centers tonight to give people a reprieve. But as Talia Ricci reports, advocates say these centers should have opened much earlier in the day.
The city says crews and church staff scheduled the removal of debris from this site today, and no encampment occupants were asked to leave. But the process didn't sit well with some who were present.
It was very violent and heavy-handed, and there was this time when residents were asked to move out of their tents that were in the correct spot. And so they did not agree to it. It wasn't done in a way that was safe. It wasn't done in a way that was respectful. And there was a real danger of flying debris.
A full shelter system and a lack of places for homeless residents to keep warm are on the minds of advocates.
The city's closing shelter hotels. There's not enough housing in this city.
We're continuing to look for additional space throughout the city, and we're continuing to add beds to the shelter system. We recognize that additional beds are needed, and there are more scheduled to come online.
The city says it usually opens warming centers when an extreme cold weather alert has been issued. And even though that's not the case tonight, it's still opening 3 sites at 7 p.m. out of an abundance of caution. The city says additional staff will also be out connecting with people living outside.
These warming centers should have been open yesterday if we were anticipating the storm to be happening throughout the day today. So the fact that they don't open until 7 tonight means that there is a whole lot of people who have been out in the snow, out in the rain all day, and they're freezing.
Lorraine Lamb says there's also mixed messaging about whether a central intake referral is needed to access a warming center.
As far as what I was told when I called this morning, you require a referral to get in.
But the city said all cots at the warming centers are available by walk-in. Advocates say as Toronto faces a housing crisis, safe spaces should be available throughout the entire winter.
At the end of the day, we just need way more shelter spaces. We need more non-congregate shelter spaces. And so all of these are simply Band-Aid solutions, and people are going to freeze to death.
Talia Ricci, CBC News, Toronto.
Let's go to Dahlia Ashry now with a first check on your forecast. And Dahlia, still quite messy out there.
A slippery and wet one earlier today, and we're going to continue to see that overnight tonight, a mixture of rain and snow that will slowly also become flurries. And as for tomorrow, we'll see a little bit more snow, could be reaching up to 10 centimeters. But for the weekend, there is a little bit of light at the end of the tunnel, which we'll get to in a bit. So the daytime high in Toronto today, 1 degree, a little bit cooler out in Peterborough, a little bit warmer out in Oshawa, 2 degrees, although there is a snow warning that is in effect for Oshawa. There is a weather advisory that's in effect for much of the GTA because of that rain and snow mixing together. Now, because of that Colorado low, it is bringing a lot of that rain and snow across the GTA, giving us those slippery conditions here. So if you're on the roads, be careful tonight and tomorrow as well. We'll see similar conditions. And then a little bit of that rain as well, we could see peeking through into Friday as well, mixing in with that snow, giving us similar conditions, slippery. As we head into Saturday, that's when it all starts to clear up and we see a little bit of light at the end of the tunnel. As for tonight, temperatures will drop. It'll be 2 degrees. We'll see a continuing of that rain and snow. Tomorrow, 2 degrees and same slippery conditions.
Thanks so much, Dahlia. Toronto City Council has backed a call for a third-party review into the troubled Eglinton Crosstown LRT project. Councillors Josh Matlow and Mike Cole initiated that call to action.
This cannot happen again. This has been a debacle. This has been a boondoggle. Money just keeps going out the door without any accountability, and that's not acceptable.
If we don't find out what Metrolinx is doing wrong here, they're going to repeat the same mistakes on the Ontario line and all the other lines.
A majority of council got behind the two councillors' request, but an amendment was added to the motion for the review to happen when the project is completed. Now, both councillors say they're disappointed their quest for answers will be delayed. The original motion would have called on Ontario's Transportation Minister and Metrolinx CEO to appear in January at the Executive Committee meeting to answer questions about the delays and costs. Matlow said the amendment will block any immediate attempt to get answers for those suffering from the construction of the project. And the project's ongoing construction having an effect on nearby residents who say it is damaging their homes.
We began to get really scared because 7 o'clock in the morning we're basically jolted out of bed. The noise levels are off the charts, even in the houses. And then the houses are vibrating for 7-8 hours a day. And we're wondering if our houses are going to stay standing.
Some residents saying it's costing them thousands of dollars and has left them worried about the integrity of their homes. They want Crosslinks, the consortium doing the work, to pay for a third-party engineer to inspect the damage.
And what these residents need is somebody to actually say, I hear you, I will do something about it, I will compensate you, I will support you, and that's not being done.
A representative from Crosslinks tells CBC that residents were informed and had various concerns attended to throughout the process. Crosslinks also saying it operated within legal sound and vibration limits, but it would be willing to survey any damaged properties in response to the claims. Now back to Toronto City Council, where Ontario's Bill 39 was at the forefront of debate today. The bill expands strong mayor powers for John Tory, allowing him to pass bylaws without the majority of council. As Del Manukduk reports, today's meeting once again got a little bit heated.
So I'd rather not condemn or do anything else that you would like to do because it's great theater.
Oh, stop.
Even before motions regarding Bill 39, Ontario's Better Municipal Governance Act, tensions were flaring. The bill would give Mayor John Tory the ability to pass bylaws with just 1/3 of council support. Here's what he said yesterday about his expanded strong mayor powers.
You know who talks to me about Bill 39? Nobody. They talk to me about housing, they talk to me about community safety. Nobody talks to me about it.
But 1/3. Today, a direct rebuttal from multiple councillors.
Have we consulted with the people of Toronto? No, we have not. We've consulted with nobody. Nobody. Nobody.
Not once has anyone ever said to me, you know what I really want is for council to rule with 1/3.
Council voted 17-8 to request the province repeal the legislation. While it was for the most part just a symbolic motion, Scarborough North Jamal Myers says it's important to get everyone on the record.
The concern isn't with whether or not John Tory will use these powers. It is what would happen if these powers were given to someone like the previous mayor. How destructive could that have been?
Myers and others framing the vote as protecting democracy.
I won my ward with a significant majority. I got more votes than even the mayor got in my ward. That does not mean that I should have to dictate or have a veto in my own community.
Mayor Tory did not speak today. The mayor's expanded powers are not yet in effect, as Bill 39 still needs to be proclaimed royal assent. Gil Manukduk, CBC News, Toronto.
Ontario's chief medical officer says he believes flu cases may have peaked, but expects COVID cases to rise after the holidays. Even so, the number of children in ICU with the flu remains high, and he's encouraging everyone to get vaccinated. Queen's Park reporter Lorenda Redicott has the latest.
Flu season may have peaked, according to Ontario's chief medical officer, but children's hospitals are still struggling with high numbers, and he's urging people to get vaccinated.
There is no question that we will have deaths in Ontario from influenza, as we've sadly had occur annually, and a proportion of those deaths sadly will be in children.
Despite the possible peak, at London Health Sciences, they say they're seeing high numbers of influenza A cases among kids. An internal memo to staff last night says the hospital has seen an unprecedented increase in children being brought in for care. It calls the current situation no longer sustainable. It's reassigning some staff to work with children and calling back retirees.
Are under extreme pressure, and I've never seen people work harder and be more creative and innovative during this incredibly difficult time.
Is there a hospital crisis at this moment?
On CBC Radio's Metro Morning today, the head of Ontario Health was asked if there's a hospital crisis right now.
And what are they telling you?
I take my cues from the front line.
And what are they telling you?
They're telling me that there is a crisis happening, that they have got real challenges in meeting demand, and so our job is to provide them with as much support as we can to meet that demand.
However, some good news today from Sick Kids. It reported that in its emergency department, numbers are now back to what they normally are during respiratory season. But Dr. Moore believes what's coming next is another COVID surge.
We're anticipating in early January to start to see, sadly, another rise in COVID cases, and it could be accentuated through the holidays.
He encourages people to maintain public health measures, such as masking and hand washing, and to stay up to date on their COVID shots and also influenza.
We want Ontarians to have a safe holiday, and it absolutely could be and would be safer if we had higher immunization rates.
Today, the province announced that starting next week, the bivalent COVID vaccine that offers better protection from the Omicron variant will be available for younger children, everyone 5 and up. Lorenda Redicott, CBC News, Toronto.
Welcome back. The housing market is continuing to cool down in Toronto and Vancouver. Both sales and average prices were down in November, and it's clear that rising interest rates are having an impact. As Philippe de Montigny reports, the cool-off is expected to continue well into 2023.
Yildiz Marcelin and her family will soon be moving out of this condo into a larger townhouse they just bought.
The prices did go down, hence why we're able to purchase now, where 6 months or a year from back then we wouldn't have been able to.
Traditionally, red-hot markets like Toronto and Vancouver are seeing fewer bidding wars. Properties aren't being snatched up as quickly, and something unheard of in recent years is happening more frequently.
We were able to purchase it under the asking price.
Higher interest rates are making mortgages more costly, cooling off the housing market. The average home price in Canada has fallen by $184,000 since February's all-time high. Sales last month were down 39% year over year. But still, many people are priced out, looking to buy elsewhere in the country. This Calgary realtor says that explains the slight uptick in home prices there.
That's what's actually kind of keeping us together. We're still seeing, migration from other areas like Ontario and BC coming to town.
But even these markets aren't immune to rising interest rates. This real estate broker expects sales to drop further.
People are getting stress tested at an interest rate of like 7%, right? Which is unbelievably hard to qualify for. So sales volumes will continue to stay low. The bigger factor that's going to influence where house prices go is how many homes come on the market. How many of those are from sellers who are pressured or distressed?
The Bank of Canada hinted last week that its cycle of rate hikes is nearing its end. But with interest rates expected to remain at these levels for much of next year, Canada's housing market could stay frosty through winter and well into the spring. Philippe de Montigny, CBC News, Toronto.
And you are looking at a live shot of the Toronto skyline, cloudy with snow this evening, changing to a rain-snow mix overnight. Currently, it is 2 degrees in the city, but feeling more like -4. Let's go back to Dahlia now for a more detailed look at your forecast. And Dahlia, what a difference a day makes. Definitely looking a lot more like winter today.
That's right, Kelda. Yesterday, we saw a little bit of dry weather. Today, it picked up. It was more slippery because of that mixture of rain and snow. We had a wintry mix, and we will see that continuing until tomorrow. A little bit of chilly one as well because of the strong winds that were gusting up to 60 kilometers an hour today. And that, again, will continue overnight tonight. But as we head into the weekend, there is a little bit of sunshine that we'll be seeing. The daytime high in Toronto today, 1 degree, a little bit warmer out in Windsor. We're not seeing really any snow in southwestern Ontario, but we are seeing a lot of snow in Oshawa. There is a snow advisory that is in effect. There is a weather advisory in effect for Toronto, but not a snow advisory. So that means we're seeing a mixture of that rain and snow, and that means that we just have to be careful out on the roads. And we got that Colorado low that came in, giving us a little bit of those ice pellets as well with that low pressure system. And those ice pellets started to go away along with that freezing rain warning in some parts of Ontario, like Mississauga. But we did see a little bit more of those slippery conditions. Now, like I said, the snow will continue. As we can see, it will be carrying through until tomorrow as well. And that will carry through until the evening, and then it'll start to taper off, and then eventually it'll clear up overnight on Friday. And then as we head into Saturday, it all starts to kind of clear up, but some snow residuals might still be around. Now, we are seeing strong winds continuing. We're seeing winds gusting up to 60 kilometers an hour, so that will continue into tomorrow as well. But it did pick up really today is when we saw those strong winds. It made it feel like -5, although the daytime high was 1 degree. So that is something to keep an eye on out for tomorrow. Tomorrow we could even be seeing snow up to 10 centimeters. So it just feels like winter, although officially winter kicks in next Wednesday. So like I said, there is a little bit of white, sun and light at the end of the tunnel. So Saturday we're seeing that sunshine. Hopefully it melts all that snow away. But we are seeing those sub-zero temperatures trending as we kick off the weekend tomorrow. So a little bit more on the cooler side in the evenings over the weekend. Now on Sunday we see a little bit of flurries as well for the daytime high. It is -1, a little bit chillier. As we head into our commute on Monday, though, it starts to warm up a little bit. We get a little bit of a break. And then as we head into Tuesday, we get that flurries again and we say goodbye to the sunshine. But overall, cooler conditions. So make sure you're bundled up and make sure you're driving slowly and cautiously when you're out on the roads.
Thanks so much, Dahlia. For one bakery in Scarborough, helping those in need is baked into their business. At the end of every day, Cobb's Bread Bakery at Morningside Crossing donates its unsold food to local charities, including the nearby Boys and Girls Club. As the bakery's owner tells us, it's important that her staff knows that the leftover baked goods are going where they are needed most.
It's about providing the community with fresh baked goods every day. At the end of the day, whatever doesn't get sold gets donated to a local charity. Working actively with the community is a very big part of what Cobb's does. Every day of the week, we have a local charity that comes at the end of the day and picks up whatever is unsold. And we know that our unsold products go to kids programs in communities, goes to local food banks supported by local churches and other charities. So we know that our product is going to where it is needed, and that is very important for us.
The donations we get from COBS actually does go a long way. 1 in 5 households are food insecure, and the pandemic, that number has risen a lot. With the high cost of food and the continued high cost of food, even for the holiday season coming up, our families face barriers to eating well does our children. So for us as an organization, we ensure that whenever our members come, there are nutritional food or snacks for them to partake in. The donations that we get on the Thursday are packed up, and our youth get to bring those home on the Fridays, as well as some of our seniors. That kind of helps to alleviate some of the barriers to eating well, because we're not open on the weekends for most of our programs, so they don't have access to the food that they would normally have during Monday to Friday.
And a reminder that CBC Sounds of the Season runs all month long, raising food and funds to support local food banks. So far, we've raised nearly $540,000. For more information on how you can get involved, visit cbc.ca/SOTS. And you can make a donation in person this Saturday from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. I will be at the Civic parking lot across from the Pickering Town Center with some of my CBC colleagues collecting donations. Hope to see you there. And before we go, a rare but cute little critter in BC is poking its way into the hearts of many people. Take a look at this adorable looking albino porcupine found in a barn near Smithers. It was hungry and looking for shelter from the cold. Now, the barn owners called a wildlife rescue center, who decided to keep it over the winter. It now not only has a new home, but also a new name. Coconut, Coco for short, is said to be doing well, and also racking up loads of fans on social media. And that is our show for you tonight. Thank you so much for watching. Chris Glover has your next local newscast tomorrow at 6. I will see you back here tomorrow night at 11. Have a great night, everyone.